Venom was directed by Ruben Fleischer and stars Tom Hardy, who plays the iconic character himself. Symbiote comes to Earth from space and finds its way to Eddie Brock. Once these two are connected, Brock is forced to unite with his alter ego Venom to take down a greater enemy. I have been excited to see Venom for a pretty long time now. Ever since Tom Hardy was announced as Eddie Brock, I have been set to see this film. But I know a lot of people were skeptical. They weren't sure if it was going to follow the comic books or not. The trailers weren't all that great. As it turns out, Venom is a perfectly fine movie, but does not live up close to what it could have been. First off, Tom Hardy as Eddie Brock, I thought he was really good. Every movie Tom Hardy is in, I seem to like him. He's one of my favorite aspects of almost every single movie he's been a part of. As Eddie Brock, he's likable. He's this hard-nosed tough guy in the movie. When Eddie Brock and Venom are together in this film, it makes up for some of the best moments in the entire movie. And the Venom character I thought was cool. The chemistry between these two was funny at times as well, because the movie provides several moments where we have Venom talking to Brock inside of his head. Nobody else can hear the voice of Venom, which makes it even cooler. So I definitely enjoyed the moments where we have Brock and Venom going at it. The action in this movie is also entertaining. Every time Venom was on the screen, ripping apart people, fighting off cops or bad guys, it was really fun. Which is what you expect to see from a Marvel movie nowadays with the MCU. There's so many action scenes out there with the superhero genre, and this movie adds on to it. I liked how this movie was darker, which they were going for. It is about this character Venom, after all, who is a very dark character. So I felt the style in this film with the cinematography was captured very well in terms of this character Venom and what he represents. Surprisingly enough too, the movie is able to keep together a cohesive story. From beginning to end, the movie is put together. Honestly, I did not expect that to happen. I figured this movie would be a jumbled up mess just like Spider-Man 3. But even with all these positives, I still have negatives on my book. One of which is how there's no Spider-Man in this film. I've heard a lot of complaints about that because it messes up the Venom story. This movie is completely different from the comics in terms of how Venom came to be. It just sort of creates its own thing out of nowhere, and I'm sure a lot of comic book fans were very disappointed with that. Can I just mention this movie was rated PG-13, which I think hurt the film in many ways. They weren't able to get too gory or too violent with some of these action scenes. Venom bites off a lot of people's heads throughout this film, but the camera always cuts away from it so it doesn't get too violent for a PG-13 movie. So, you know, I've already heard so many people say this movie should have been rated R, and I actually agree with them, but I know Marvel wants to make a lot of money, so there is no chance that we're going to go down that route with a Venom movie. Plus, I did encounter some very strange moments from this film. I don't know what it was, but some of these moments felt out of place. I don't want to dive into what some of these things are because then I'll get into spoiler territory, which I don't want to do. This is a spoiler-free review. Just to put it mildly, this movie did certain things that I did not feel like added onto this movie whatsoever. In fact, they felt so out of place to the point where they should have been cut out, and they should have gone back to the other cuts and put those in instead. Apparently, Tom Hardy was upset because they decided to cut out some of his favorite scenes from the movie. What do I have to say about that? How dare you upset such a great actor like Tom Hardy? Every movie he's been in has been really good, but this one was not on the level of his other prior films. To me, it became clear that the people behind the making of this movie were not on the same page as Tom Hardy compared to some of his previous projects. If you want to make a great movie, everyone should at least agree for the most part, but that did not seem to be the case with Venom. The villain in Venom was played by Riz Ahmed, who you might know from Nightcrawler. I like the guy, he's a good actor. As the villain though, he was not menacing whatsoever. I did not buy him as this super scary guy. It didn't help that his writing was not good, and that's one of my other biggest problems. The writing in this movie was pretty bad at times. It felt out of place as well. The dialogue was not great to say the least. Walking out of the theater after watching Venom, I was a bit underwhelmed. This movie was fine. It was not nearly as good as it could have been. There were some adjustments that needed to be made in order for this movie to reach its potential, but the movie went nowhere near that. And I can easily say with great confidence, I would much rather watch Spider-Man 3 over Venom. While Venom has its fair share of fun, Spider-Man 3 keeps me glued to the screen more so than that of Venom. Unfortunately, I'm giving Venom a 54%. Once again, we have another movie not live up to its hype. When is this gonna stop? When are movies gonna start getting better? This year so far has been subpar, but I really do miss back in the early days of this year when Infinity War came out and some other great hits. For those of you who have seen Venom already, let me know down below in the comment section what your thoughts are of it. That is my review for Venom. Next up, I will most likely be seeing A Star Is Born and then First Man, so get ready for those two reviews. If you're new to my channel, click that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Thank you all so much for watching this video, and I hope you all have a fantastic day.